Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Facebook Live all about circle time for our young children, our young autistic children, or children with special needs who are just being introduced to circle time or group time for the first time. So I'm going to pull up the comments here so I can see what you all are saying and where you're from. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? What do you do? Are you a parent? Are you a special educator, SLP, paraprofessional? I'm sure I'm missing a bunch here. OT, PT. Let me know in the comments where are you watching from and what do you do? And thank you so much for joining me live on a Sunday afternoon. If it is Sunday where you live, I know if you're watching from overseas, I don't know what day or time it is. Maybe it's Monday for you already, or probably middle of the night. Anyway, I'm so glad you're here. Hi, Stacy, and hello, Marissa, both preschool special ed teachers or early childhood teachers. Love it. Awesome, awesome. Well, if you don't know me, I'm Tara Phillips, and I'm a speech language pathologist, and I have worked with young autistic children for 25 years and counting, right? And so I love sharing my passion for strategies and activities and just sharing things that have worked over, that have stood the test of time over many years. I love connecting with all of you. Hi, Brittany. Hi, Marnie. Hello, Abby and Jennifer. I'm so happy you're here. Hi, Nicole from Canada. I just got back a couple weeks ago from a vacation in Canada. We were in Alberta at Banff National Park, and it was absolutely amazing. Hi, Kristen and Dawn and Jordan. Okay, I am so glad you are here. It looks like everyone is finding their way in. And I know for those of you that are football fans, let's get this party started so we can get back to watching our first Sunday of football. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about introducing circle time. And these are for our students who sometimes don't seem interested or maybe don't seem ready for a circle time. Let me know in the comments. Have you been there or are you currently there? Like, how am I going to get this child or my whole class to sit and be actively engaged and participate at a morning meeting or a circle time? I know for me, especially with my incoming 3-year-old autistic students, it was hard to do. It is hard to do because a lot of them don't understand what it means to be part of a group. They maybe have a really short attention span, and it can just be hard, I would say, in 2023 to do anything that's not technology based. Let me know if you're feeling the same way, right? Hard to do anything that's not technology based or YouTube based. And I'm going to show you how to weave that in, but then expand on it because I'm not against it. This is the world we live in now. So let me know in the comments. Do you have kids like that, everything is like YouTube videos and songs, and it's hard to do other things that it's hard to capture their attention without video? Okay, I'll watch for your comments to come in. I'm going to keep rolling here. So we want our students to be successful, right? And that might mean starting with a really short circle time, right? And we might need to level our students so that some stay this long and then they're gone. And then some stay this long and then they go do a different activity. So if you have students that have even slightly different levels of where they're at and attention focus, it's okay to level the group like that. We'll talk a little bit more about it. Casey says, yes, I have 8 children who are all 3 years old. Yeah, it's hard. But, there are, even at that age, some benefits to introducing a circle time. But we just need to make it really predictable and maybe incorporate some of the things I talk about today. So it's short and sweet, predictable, yet sets them on that path to being able to do more and more at that group time, right? So building these predictable routines, you hear me talk about it all the time in everything that I do, but building those routines within group time can be really helpful too. And I'll show you how to do it. So, we're going to start with the physical setup. And let me know in the comments, what kind of flexible seating do you guys use? So this is a picture from my classroom. So we have like the cube seats, and those seem to work really well for kids that are either constantly falling off chairs or, need that like to be kind of not boxed in, but feel secure in where they're sitting versus the floor. I have very few students at that 3-year-old, 4-year-old level that sit on the floor and are able to stay in their spot. I hope that, or I'm thinking that might make sense to all of you that are working with that age too. Like sitting on the floor is just really difficult for a lot of our students. So the cube chairs work really, really well. Sometimes you can see the second chair if you're looking at the right side. The second chair in is one that kind of wobbles. Those I don't find as much success with. I don't offer them usually unless it's like something where you've tried it with this one student and it works and they sit in that chair. Because I find a lot of times the wobble chairs, they end up tipping over or, that kind of thing. But it's nice to have it and bring it in when you have a student that will benefit from that. But chairs with sides on them, I find so much better. If you have kids that, like some of my students will like to kind of half lay and slouch, the kids that kind of lean up against you. I know you can't see it really well in this picture, but that red chair is like one that the back comes up and it's soft and kind of cushiony and they can kind of half lay, right? So they're kind of leaning up against it. I don't know if you guys have one of those, but they're really helpful. Okay, so you guys are saying flexible seating looks like yours with the exception of the stool. Cube chairs and wobble cushions. Yeah, that's a great, sometimes we use the wobble cushions in the cube chair, and some kids could maybe handle it on the floor. I see that more in like an inclusive preschool classroom. We'll use the wobble cushions more just on the floor. Christina says standard wood table and chairs, depending on the preference. Yep. They sit further back and don't block the sitters. Yeah, that is a great option. And I've done that before. If you have someone that it's really hard to sit at group, but maybe a table where they're kind of playing with something behind the group, that's great. I also have a swing behind this group. And so I have had a student, if the other kids are really engaged in group time, they don't even notice, but I have had one student that will maybe swing while we do group time. Okay, you guys, sorry, I see a scammer on here. The James, can we be friends? Just ignore him. Stacy said this year she has a vibrating pillow. Yep. Okay, these are all super awesome ideas. So really paying attention before you start group time, going to really take a look at what your group looks like. You can see on the left, I have a little barrier there, and that's going to prevent kids from going into my play area or kind of hopefully out of sight, out of mind. And then I have these movable barriers. Do any of you have these? The movable barriers are really nice because they will block distractions, right? They're not meant to like keep kids in an area. They could be knocked over easily. But it's kind of that if kids turn around and they see all the other things in the classroom, it could be like, oh, I want that, and distracting. But if you have this barrier, a movable one that you can just slide over at group and put one or two behind where they're sitting, it just kind of visually will block those things out so that they don't notice anything when they turn around, right? So these are really, really helpful to have. And my paras are so good about knowing, like, we sit down and then knowing our group, like they'll know, oh, this group of kids, we need a couple barriers back there. So it's just part of our routine as adults. Once everyone's sitting, one of the paras just brings those back. Okay, the next thing you're going to want to be doing to create that predictable routine is to use the visual schedule to get kids to come to group. they may not understand it yet, right? And if, let's say, you don't have full visual schedules implemented yet, it's okay. But let's grab a group picture, and you could have a cup of that, a little cup with them in there. You could have, if you don't have a full schedule implemented for kids yet, it's okay. So grab when you're saying to everyone, let's say you set a timer, okay, 2 minutes of play, then group time, and we're giving warnings. And so then when it beeps, then we show or give them the group picture. Depends on if it's a student that will hold it, or if it's a student that will just drop it, then we'll model it for them as we walk to group. So we give them the group picture, and then we help get them to go towards the group area. A lot of times they'll walk with you. A lot of times just some of those kind of unwritten reminders, things like, oh, Tara just turned off the lights. That becomes one of those cues that's nonverbal, but becomes part of that predictable routine. I swear, if the lights get turned off, a couple of my students each year automatically head to group area. So they pick up on those cues. So I'll turn it off, and then I'll maybe start the first song before they're even there, because that's going to help move them over to that area. So then once they get to that area, see that bigger picture of group time or circle time, they're going to attach the picture that they have in their hand or that you're holding for them to that. Now, this is one of the big things. So I always had that on the wall, and kids would go like on the way to group. But sometimes they would start to notice, like, oh, the lights went off and Tara said group time. And even if they grabbed their picture, they would come and sit down. And I'm not going to make them get back up to go put that picture on the group time, because they're doing what we want. They're sitting, right? Let me know in the comments, how would you feel if your student went to group time and sat in the chair with the cue of just turning off the lights, right? I would feel like, heck yeah, let's not change that and move that. Now, you guys, I see someone that is just blowing up the comments that is a scammer. So I'm going to go on my phone here real quick, if you don't mind, and try to just block them, because that is going to be super annoying for all of you. So hold on one second. Hang with me. Let me know in the comments, what do your students do right now when it's group time? Like, what problems do you have with that transition to group time, getting to group time? Let me know while I try to block this person. Let's see. Can I do it? Oh, it might not let me. All right. Well, I will delete that scammer. So just don't respond. And sorry about that. This happens. Okay. Here we go. Back on track. I just kept seeing these comments and I'm like, it's distracting me, but I'm going to do my best to ignore it and filter it. Yeah, Marissa said summer runners. Okay. And Diana said, are you selling visuals for the classroom in your TPT store? Yes. Brittany, I see a lot of my teachers struggle with engaging them through the transition, right? Because a transition is not just as easy as saying, like, here, take the group picture and go and match and you're there, right? We have to think about how we're going to help during that transition if the transition's breaking down. Renee said, I usually get everyone to come, but sit, but then I lose them. Okay, so this is where we're going to start small. So we're going to either model or give them the picture, have them match it to the bigger picture. And you can see in this photo that I have up, we are now bringing the larger picture to the student when they sit down, because it's one less transition, if you know what I mean. It may not seem like a lot to anyone else, but to those of us in the trenches doing this, if we have to get kids to go to the wall or a location where you have this picture to match and then to their chair, that might be the moment we lose them out of group, right? It's an extra little detour on the transition, and that can kind of wreck it. So it's okay. Now, if a student naturally knows what to do and goes and matches it, it's fine. You could even have two, one on the wall and one that you bring to them. So I'll usually be sitting at group waiting and I can grab this. And as kids come and sit down, we can match the picture. So we bring it to them because if they're in the seat, let's not mess with that, right? Okay, transitioning to group, another idea, a transition object. So this could be something that you know they really like a little matchbox car. So see this little guy, he had like the sensory little simple dimple, which we all have on our lanyards because it is the best for helping transition kids. And then in his left hand, he has two little cars. I'm going to let him bring those. And sometimes for kids that, if you identify one or two kids that extra need help with that transition, sometimes if you have one of those little pencil cases that are plastic that shut, you can put some of these things you know they like to hold on to in there. And we'll usually just keep it right on top of their visual schedule. And then we'll open it and let them pick one or two. And once their mind is on that, instead of leaving what they just left or wanting to go somewhere else, like this little guy, he sees those cars, he'll grab two, and then we can help him over to group time. So a transition object, let me know, you guys, in the comments, what transition objects do your students like? Yeah, Brittany, she said, my 2 paras and 10 kids are a lot when they're running and hiding. Absolutely. So with something like that, Brittany, I would say if you can get a few over engaged with you, like you're teaching, the para helps get a couple over, you get going, and then slowly add to your group, right? Kristen said Paw Patrol toys. So yeah, think of things like Jennifer, small animals, cars, fidgets. Allison said, how long do you let them hold it? So I will let them hold it through group, but I'm thoughtful about what we put in that pencil box, right? So we're not going to put things that are loud and crazy, distracting. They're going to be things the child likes and that would be okay to hold throughout group time, right? And then we have it, we only put it out. Then when they like set them down or they're done playing with them, or we use the all done bucket, if we're done with them at some point, we can just put them back in the little pencil pouch. So I hope that helps. Yeah, dinosaurs. That's a huge one, you guys, right? Hey, Lily, I am so glad you could make it all the way from Australia. Oh, yeah, Lauren said, we learned that pop tubes were not a good idea for group time. Amen to that. The other thing that is not good are those stretchy, they look like long snakes because they start whipping around like this and they slap other kids by accident. It's really, really bad. So be very thoughtful about what type of fidget. Sometimes you think something's going to be good and then it's not, and you just remove it from the fidget basket. Okay, so these are fidgets to get to group, especially for certain kids that really, really need that extra something. The other thing that's going to help you get kids to transition to group are the timers, like I talked about a few minutes ago. So whatever they're finishing up, whether it's play or they're working with a teacher one-on-one or whatever they're doing on the swing, like we have all these scenarios in my classroom, we would say, okay, 2 minutes and then group time, and then we start the timer. And then we might show it to them again, like, okay, 1 more minute, then group time, and then when it beeps. Now, they're not going to understand it right away, but over time, when you're consistent, like, okay, we're done, and I'll talk in a minute about the all done bucket because you can use that for the transition as well as using it during group. You could have a song that you sing to come to group, or you could turn on the hello song at group. So kids, that signifies to them, just like turning off the light. The timer beeps, the song goes on, the light goes off. Oh my gosh, you guys, those are 3 ways that over time, it's going to become like muscle memory, like, oh, this is what we do when that happens. Now, at first, it's gonna be like a little chaotic because they don't know what it means, right? But the more we use the same routine and these little rituals, the more it's gonna help. Okay, so, you use those strategies, you built in those routines over time, and you got the kids to group, or at least a couple of them, right? Maybe you got a couple there and you get group going, and then you get a couple, the para gets a couple more there, right? So, oh, Brittany, that's great. She said, I use visual ABC on the screen, and they know the ABC song means group time. We use that at group time each day. Perfect. I love that so much because that is building the ritual and the routine. They don't know what it means at first, and then over the weeks, most children will learn what that means and have a more automatic response to it, if that makes sense. And Lisa said, I use a color changing timer with a first, then, when visual. Yeah. And Rose, I teach early childhood and would love for you to visit my classroom via Zoom. Maybe I'll have that in the works sometime, you guys. That would be super awesome. Stacy rings a bell and does 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. It's all about, and then the Dora cleanup song. Yeah, it's all about rituals and routines, right? Okay, so sensory tools and fidgets. So this little girl here is holding, I can't remember what's in her hands, but a couple little characters. It could be Coco Melon, Paw Patrol, whatever. Those could be ones that she transitioned with. Maybe she had a transition object and then she sits at group and holds them. And here she has a weighted lap pad on it, on her lap. So whatever combination we think kids need, paraprofessionals get really good at figuring this out. And, we have like a little area next to group, a basket or two full of fidgets, and then a spot where we have wiggle cushions and lap pads, weighted lap pads. So we can have easy access to them because you know what happens. You guys tell me in the comments. What happens if anything takes too long or we have to turn our back to go get it? I can't wait to see what you say because I know you know. What happens if we have to turn our back? It's not good because that's when we literally lose kids, right? I mean, not lose them like they go out the door, usually, hopefully, but yeah, we lose them. Behavior start or eloping. Someone said screwed. Because they leave, they wander. We have to keep them actively engaged and they don't have as much, most of our students don't have as much tolerance yet for that downtime. So we give them that downtime by not being ready and they're gone. Exactly what Ann said. You guys know. Amber said squirrel. Courtney said craziness. Yeah, it's reality, right? We all work with the same age level and group of kids. So we got to be ready, got to have all our tools near us. And then we can offer sensory tools. Now, tell me if this has happened to anyone else. If I bring out the whole basket of sensory tools and I'm like to one child, like, here, which one do you want? That creates havoc too because it's chaos because then everyone's coming over and they're rifling through and trying to grab more than one. So I feel like it's a little better when possible to just kind of be discreet and offer a couple to a certain student a little more privately, like the para does it, because it's reality. It's just hard. So really keeping an eye on all those little things that we get to know about students, like, oh, if this student is starting to like move around, that means he's probably going to get up and go pretty soon. So could we offer a new fidget or exchange one to kind of keep them there, right? Rachel said, I have one student that would throw the whole basket in the air and say, yay! Yep. Because a lot of our students are at that dumping stage of play. It's called exploratory play. Okay. And you know what? If he's holding 3 cars, it's fine. His hands are full. If he's, not disrupting the whole group with them, sometimes I'll have students with characters that kind of start talking, like maybe acting out Coco Melon, and it's fine, right? We are at group together, experiencing the same thing together. And unless something gets like way out of control or distracting, it's okay. So, this is what we're going to do. We've transitioned to group. We got to group. We're sitting. We're kind of sitting, right? We're going to start with songs. And our whole group is just going to be songs, depending on what technology you have or what you know about your students. But if they're like mine, if you have like a smartboard, interactive whiteboard, and these students are brand new to group, I'm going to start with some super popular songs, like super simple songs, or find out from parents. I have a reinforcement inventory that I send home and find out. I have written on there, like, what YouTube songs does your student like? Because I don't think I've met any students in the last 5 years that don't watch YouTube. All the songs. But I'll do like some of the favorites, like Hickory Dickory Dock or a Cocoa Melon, or super simple songs are the best. And so we'll just start with that. And we'll do 3 songs or 2 songs, depending on your group. And then we're done. And you could do a couple different groups a day if you wanted to, and just do that. And then when kids are able to mostly sit for like 3 songs, could be two to 3 songs, then you can start to add some other stuff in. And the reason I do this, I know it's like, oh, technology's everywhere, screens are everywhere, but this is the reality for our students coming in. This is a highly motivating thing for, I would say, 99% of them. And if we use it to teach the routine of sitting, and then we start to put in some other little things that are non-screen, that's going to work better than trying to come to group and do something that they're not used to, that they've never done before, and they're going to be trying to leave. So the purpose at first is to be part of a group and to hopefully learn to sit at a group. And they're going to be actively engaged with the video, and we'll just transfer that to other skills over time slowly, right? So we're going to start with little steps. So when we're thinking where to start, I like to start with songs on YouTube. They're familiar and motivating to most of our students. They'll help them learn to sit and stay at circle time. Like, you guys, what would you give to have all of your students stay at circle time, right? Lisa, yes, I will put the reinforcement inventory. I give that out for free. So I'll put that in the comments when we're done here. Once they're able to stay for those 3 or so songs, I mean, that's up to you depending on your feel of your group. You can start to expand. And now we'll talk about some of those things you can do to expand. So while you're introducing those songs, yeah, Lauren, she said, I hate having to use so much screen time, but it's a good perspective so we can teach them to sit and other things. Yeah, like I think we're all made to feel really bad about screen time, but sometimes it's the saving grace because it can help us teach some of those other skills, right? And we know in our head where we're headed with that. And with some groups of kids, it might take a little longer than others, right? So we're going to model the visuals. So let me know in the comments, do you already have a copy of this, what's on the screen right now? I created a couple years ago visual choice boards that go with themed YouTube playlists. So I have the playlist all set up for you to make it easy for subs, paras, whoever. And then there's a picture of a screenshot from each song so the kids recognize it, and it's going to be a little easier. So this is something you can also say, we're not just sitting here watching videos. We're modeling the use of these so that the kids can start to request on their own by pointing or giving the picture or whatever. Okay, if you don't have it, go to www.autismlittlelearners/songs, SONGS, and it'll bring you to a link to sign up and it'll get sent to you. I will put this in the comments after I'm done here too, but that is something you can print off right away and you'll get the whole year's worth at one time. Oh, good. Lauren said, loving these. Good. And Kelsey said, yuppers, ready to go and color coded by child. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to want to do. Okay, so back up just a minute. When I'm saying, like, okay, we're going to do these 2 to 3 songs before we add anything else in, while you're doing those songs, you're taking these and you're modeling. And so if my student goes up and touches the screen, you know, when it goes up and it shows like the whole playlist up there, they might touch one like Hickory Dickory Dock. And if that happens, I'm going to say, heck yeah, they're communicating with me, right? They are initiating that communication. We're talking multimodal communication. They went up and slapped the Hickory Dickory Dock song. So I'm going to take this picture and show them and say, yes, Hickory Dickory Dock, we'll do that one. So we're going to try to use that time when we're doing the videos, not only to sit and, pay attention, but also to start this idea of making connections that these pictures can help you communicate what you want to watch. And your voice has power, right? Okay, the other thing I'm going to implement right away is the group mini schedule. So you think of your big visual schedule, right? That tells you that group is next and then what you're doing after that. But a mini schedule is going to break down group time. And I'm going to show you a couple examples by keeping it very, very, very simple. So like this is the one we used last year in my classroom. It simply says, sit down, and then as the kids picked songs, I would put them on there. But you could have just a general song picture if you don't want to put the actual ones on and they want to see, like, we're doing 3 songs and then all done. Or here, the group was at the end of the day, so it was like backpack at the end. So the mini schedule, you can make a bunch of them, right? And you could have paras could be holding them to check in with kids that like to hold it. So you see this little guy is holding a Thomas the Train and holding the schedule. So those certain kids that love the visuals and love to know what's happening. They can hold it, so make a bunch. You can have one up front to show everybody and walk around. The paras can have one. If it's a child that doesn't want to hold it, like if you gave it to them and they would just throw it, then a para can check in with them and say, oh, look, 1 song all done, 2 more, then check schedule, or then backpack, or whatever you're doing next. And these can look a lot of different ways. So there's some for circle time that's like, move it. The one on top here was from an integrated preschool classroom. And so they would move it left to right. The one on the bottom is kind of similar to the one I just showed you, but this is also in an integrated classroom where it was like they did the weather and a song and a dance and then a book. So it just laid out what was coming. This one is one that a colleague had made, and you would put the pictures down and then put them in the all done slot, which can be helpful too. And then this, were any of you in my file folder challenge this spring? If you were, you got this. And basically it's just the pictures for a very basic group time, right? So it might be sit down, song, story, all done. Or you could put sit down, song, 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 all done. But then as you put other things in, like greeting, you can add that in after they've got their routine going. Okay, the other thing you're going to want, because we know our kids are not going to stay sitting, right? If someone stands up in their place and isn't like moving around or going up and like touching the smartboard, I'm fine with kids that need to stand and learn. But if you have a student where you need to remind them to sit down, doing it, these are big page size, and you can bring it over and tap on it. You don't even have to say anything, or you could say sit down. And eventually when kids understand what this means, they maybe get up and move toward the smartboard, and I'll just hand this to them, or we'll put it on the floor in front of their chair and tap on it. And so sometimes once they understand it, just showing it to them, it's just a reminder, like, oh, we're going to sit down. So these can be really helpful too, to have, like I said, in your little bucket of your visual supports that you can pull out and have access to. And then the almighty all done bucket. And this is the best thing ever. So who here uses an all done bucket? Or you could tell me, I'm going to be implementing it, or I've never heard of it. Let me know where you're at with the all done bucket. And I would love to know, you guys, come back to this. If you have any pictures of things that are successful for you in group time, come back and post a picture, because I would love to see, or write things that are successful for you, because I think other people really, really would be interested in this, because this is just such a huge thing, trying to get kids introducing group time, circle time to them at this young age. Okay, so the All Done Bucket is part of my visual support starter set, and you can get it at www.autismlittlelearners.com/visuals. And this visual support in particular, you just take this piece that says All Done, and you laminate it and attach it to any kind of bucket or basket that you have. And it creates a predictable routine for being done with something, right? So whether we're maybe cleaning up a couple toys, whether we're at group and maybe a student has one of those fidget toys that's just not working for them in the moment, we can cue them and say, okay, all done bucket. We'll put it in the all done bucket and get a new one. And once they learn the all done bucket and they know what it means, it becomes, again, like that muscle memory, and they will just put it in there. I'm not saying 100% of the time, but enough where I have to sing the praises of this strategy over and over again. So they put it in, and then we can move it and give them something else, right? Same thing for one of the things I'm going to mention later are musical instruments. So maybe we play the instruments for one song, and then I just walk around with the all done bucket. Boom, boom, boom. Everybody puts them in, right? And you guys come back and read the comments and see how this has worked for people, and in addition to the weight mat. So anyway, all done bucket, super great thing to have at group time, especially if kids are holding things and you need them sometimes to put it away. Okay, are you ready for a hands-on greeting? Because I think the hardest thing for me, greetings, our kids have a really hard time at that age shifting their gaze. So to get them to look at someone else and acknowledge that they're there and say hi, it's just not meaningful to them at that point, right? And we can't physically make kids look at one another, and it's not the right thing to do anyway. So we need to figure out a way that's going to be hands-on and engaging. And this little container with a light up ball inside is what to do. Lauren, thank you so much for putting that link in there. That's awesome. Okay, so I'll show you how to use it. So instead of doing something like, you all know what the kindergarten stuff, like hickety pickety bumblebee, can you say your name for me? Well, with our students who are echolalic, they're most likely going to echo what you say, right? Especially when they're young and they're not sure what you're asking of them. So we're going to look more at this, and I'll just tell you how I use it, and then we can talk about why. So you have this jar, and you have the little light up ball, or it could be anything that lights up. And I forgot to bring it in here with me, so I'm going to use some lotion instead. So pretend this is the jar with the light up ball. So I'm going to go, one student's going to take it, and we're going to sing. The adults are going to sing. And kids eventually will start singing along. But you just say, Tara shakes the jar, Tara shakes the jar. She takes the jar and shakes the jar and passes it to Aiden. All the kids are going to want to hold on to this jar, and they're going to want to shake it, because that's one, if they're at that exploratory stage of play, shaking things, dumping things is their jam. And then if you shake it, the sensory part of the ball lighting up, like everyone's going to want this. Everyone's going to want to turn. Now, it might be hard you have one person do it at a time. At first, you could make one and have every student have one, and we all just shake and sing together. But eventually, if you can pass it, that is like one little beginning piece of sharing and taking turns, right? So what if we start here and we just go down the line and we pass it down? When they pass it to Aiden, Aiden shakes the jar, Aiden shakes the jar, he takes the jar and shakes the jar and passes it to Sarah. Okay, so I'll put the lyrics into the comments. How about that? Would that work for you? And then you could come back to this replay if you need to hear it. I'm not a good singer. My husband's a musician, and so we always laugh about how bad I am, but you get the idea, right? So you guys, you could use this for the whole year. You don't have to like switch it out or do anything different. This is another one of those like repetitive rituals, routines. You could switch out what's on the inside for novelty. Around Halloween, you could get some pumpkins with some things that light up. You know what I mean? So there's a lot you can do. You can use just an empty peanut butter jar, or this one I just bought because I wanted to demonstrate for you and I didn't have it at home. I bought it on Amazon, and the balls. So I'll put both of them in the comments in case you're like, I don't have either of those things and I just would rather buy it and know it's going to work. Okay, so that might be the next thing you add in, right? So at first we're listening to the 3 songs. Then when you feel like, even if they're able to sit for a couple songs and you add this in, you could video model it at first and have it be one of the songs. So you could take a video of a child or the adults, you and your paras, sitting at group and doing it. And then you could play that as one of the videos to work it in, right? Because video modeling is one of the most underrated strategies. It can work so well. So think about that as an idea too. So let's say now you're doing a couple songs, but you're doing this greeting at the beginning. Then what? What's the next thing you could expand on? Maybe, this might take weeks to start expanding into these. Oh, good. Lauren said, my kids love egg shakers, so I know they'll be great with this. That's awesome. Kelsey's going to try it tomorrow for their first day. Yeah, and if your group, your group where you could do this right from the beginning, do it. Yeah. But, sometimes you get the kids that this might be too hard to add in at first. But after you get in that routine of coming to group and sitting, then you could add it in. Here's another thing you could add in for kids that aren't sit and listen kind of kids, right? So they're not going to sit and listen to you give a lesson or talk about the weather or talk about the days of the week. So I think for 3-year-olds, a lot of times days of the week and weather can be inappropriate too, because they're just not age appropriate. And then you think of what level our students are at, maybe developmentally, and learning the days of the week is really like not our priority list. Sometimes they're fun because they like to count, right? So just think of that too and give yourself permission to not have to do that if it doesn't make sense for your group yet or at this point in time, right? So you could find some put in activities. And some of you that have been with me for a while, you have heard me talk about put in activities. And if you search on my website, like play or especially exploratory play, the put in activities are great for kids that are dumpers, shakers, and aren't functionally playing with a toy yet, like pushing the car or putting it down the ramp. They're maybe not doing that yet. So any activity, now these you can make, you can buy, like this little piñata is from Learning Resources, which is my favorite online store ever for my students. And so with this one, these little pieces of pretend candy, you could give 1 or 2 to each student, and then you could walk around and they put them in. And you could make up a song, like a put in song, or you could just label the colors as they put them in. But this gives them something clear to do, and we're working on this common goal as a group. And it may seem small, but these little baby steps are going to help us focus as a group on a common goal, right? So put in activities. They'll be really short and sweet, but I think that kids really can benefit from this kind of thing too, and kind of watching what each other are doing. Here's another one that a lot of you have in your classrooms. So you could turn the music off or you could have the music on with this little toy, but then labeling like, oh, green in, ready, set, go, orange in. So really working on some of those core words. Diane, I don't have an example off the top of my head for a song, but you could come up with anything like just put the candy in, put the candy in, put the candy in, the donkey put the candy in. You could come up with something that could work for whatever activity you have. Put the ball in, put the ball in. So I don't know. This would be a great thing also to bring to the Visual Supports private Facebook group. Let me know, are you in the private Visual Supports Facebook group? It's free, but there's like 10,000 of us in there, and it is the most supportive group. If anyone has a question, everyone's there to help answer it or brainstorm. So that would be, this would be a great topic to brainstorm in there. I will put the link in the comments when I'm done here. So if you're not in that group, head over. Okay, let's see what Brittany said. We use the song as their cue for the end of circle. We also do weather, but I found a video to go with it. Videos help with 4 types of weather. Yeah, that's perfect because it's rainy, cloudy, sunny, snowy. Perfect. Yeah, you guys are going to have such great ideas for each other. I love this. Okay. Here's another put in. If you don't have the funds to buy something new, get a container, cut a hole in the top, and we're just putting blocks in. Again, you can count when you do this. You can do colors. You can use core vocabulary. So these are things that you can add to group time that will be fun for that level of students who are just being introduced to group time. So you can see group time is going to get longer and longer as you start to add more of these things in. Okay, you can do something like this too, where you could give them each their picture and they just simply match it. You go around and bring this to them. Who's at group time today? And then they put their own picture on. And then you could say, oh, look, it's Sarah. And then adapted books. So these I would take time to teach one-on-one first, right? So you're going to teach, let me know in the comments. Have you used adapted books? Have you been to any of my challenges? Or are you like, wait, what are adapted books? I don't know what they are yet. Oh, Lauren saves the day again. She just put in the link to the Facebook group. Thank you, Lauren, so much. So adapted books are going to allow books to be hands-on. So instead of just sitting and listening, they're going to be active participants in the book. So when we get to the page where there's the green frog, they take the picture and they put it physically on the page. It's structured. It's routine. It makes sense to kids, especially autistic kids. So we teach this one-on-one. And then this is where you could either level a group, or if the whole group knows how to use these, you could do it. So we might have paras that have these, the loose pictures behind the kids and give them to them one at a time so they don't kind of end up all over. So there's some students where we can give it to them right at the beginning and they'll hold it and wait till their turn. And then we have some students where if we give it to them too early, it'll end up in their mouth or on the floor. So for those kids, maybe we give it to them when it's just about their turn. And then I can bring the book real close to them and help facilitate that match. So, or you could say, okay, let's say you have 8 kids at group and half of the group knows how to do the adapted books. So you can excuse half the group and do the leveled group. And then the other half stays and does this. And the other half of students goes on to whatever their next activity is. And sometimes adapted books will have visuals with it where you can, and a lot of you probably have like flannel board kind of stuff too. But, oh, Kelsey said, by the end of the year, my boys could retrieve the correct picture and match them. That's absolutely amazing. Christina said, currently I use adaptive books and more of an interactive piece. I pass out all the icons to my students and follow along, and they bring up the pieces as they apply. And that is like a perfect end result, right, Christina? So, with all of these things, this is another piece you can add and then think about leveling the group if you need to. And same thing with the flannel board pieces that go along with the adapted books. You can do that too. And then there's the musical instruments. Usually with my students, it's like free play. We're not doing anything special except later in the year, I'll introduce a go sign and a stop sign. And we'll do a song that automatically stops. And then it'll say go. So that's super fun. But remember, all done bucket when we're done with these so that we're not getting in a power struggle with taking the instruments back. And then has anybody, I think we're getting to the end here. This session I was thinking like a half hour for this Facebook Live, you guys, but you got me all excited here as I'm seeing your comments. Has anyone done the AAC split screen with like a core board and the video on YouTube? This is so cool. I'm excited to share it. Okay. Heather, I will get you the example of the stop and go song. Okay, so I would like to research more on different ways to do this because this is something I just learned in the last year, and my students really liked it. And it gave me something more to do while I was playing those songs. So this is something you could do from the start with your songs, right? So you can pull up the core board or the level of core board you think is appropriate for your room, and then have the super simple songs or whatever songs play next to it. And then you can be pointing like, oh, what do you hear? Oh yeah, he said cluck. So this is super great. Okay, I think this is going to be our topic for our next Facebook Live. I'm hoping to do one next week. So let me work on that and I'll let you know. But this is just, I can't even tell you how fun it was to use this, but I want to find out a couple different ways people are doing it so you can find a way that works the best for you. Okay, and then ending circle time. So just having a song. Do you all have a song that you end with? Now, it could be a YouTube song like this one, and just stick with the same one for a while, and then over time, you can switch it out with different goodbye songs, right? And then have your all done bucket handy, because any kids that have fidget toys, if they're willing to put them in and be done with them, that is super awesome. If there's someone that is just like really wants to hold it, they can bring it with them to the next activity or location, and then eventually they'll be done with it and you can put it back over at the group time area. But I really wouldn't get in a power struggle over that, especially if it's a smaller thing that was meant for group time. It can probably go wherever. And that's when you can work on strategies like the weight mat, where they can put it aside while they're working on the next thing. Okay, and when you're ending, just think visual schedule. A lot of our students we just start with one picture on the schedule. So we might say, okay, check schedule. We bring kids to their schedule, and then, okay, it's time to go play Legos or play area or whatever it might be, snack time. But having just one picture on the schedule is okay to start. We can work up into a sequence, but most of my students start with one, and then we individualize to each student as they're ready for more. Whew. Okay, you guys, we made it. The half-hour session that turned into an hour. Oh, and look, watch Carrie. She just posted a YouTube link to a stop and go song that she uses. So thank you so much, Carrie. I would love the continuing to share. I'll probably put a post up in the private Facebook group where we can share some of our ideas. But thank you so much for being here. And if you don't have my autism classroom guide that kind of talks about things like the physical structure of the classroom, self-regulation, building a positive relationship. This guide is free, and just go to autismlittlelearners.com/guide. And then, if you are interested in adapted books, I know I recognize a lot of names here that are either in my full membership or in the adapted book library. But this spring, I just developed an adapted book library, and I'm still adding more books to this library. But there's interactive visual books, there are board books, and then paperback books. And these are the visuals to adapt them. In the library in particular, you also get two visual art projects that go with each book, and the flannel board pieces, as well as a cue card. It's still only $5 a month because I'm waiting till I get a certain number of books in before I up the price. But then you're locked in at that price. So autismlittlelearners.com/library. And then the very last thing, I just got this done before we went on, so you're the absolute first to hear about it. But I'm doing a free webinar starting next Sunday, 1 week from today. And it's Autism Education Essentials, Building Strong Foundations at Home and School. And it's free. It's about an hour long. And there are 3 dates you can choose from. You only need to choose one. And just go to autismlittlelearners.com/webinar. All right. If you are still on watching and you like football, tell me who you're rooting for this weekend. So I am a Green Bay Packer fan, born and raised in Wisconsin. So I'm hoping our new quarterback does a great job. Let me know in the comments. Who are you rooting for? I'm going to watch a couple come up, and then I'll let you go. Okay, Chantel said the Steelers. Lauren said hooray. Oh, Shelly, the Vikings. I need to go check and see where they're at. They're our nemesis. Sarah, the Vikings. Oh, Kelly, Green Bay. Thank you, Laura. Super nice. And Lisa. Susan said the Bengals. Trudy said the Packers. Okay, we will leave it on that note. All right, you guys, join me inside the webinar and also inside the free Facebook group, the Visual Supports group, and we'll continue this discussion about circle time. All right. Talk to you later.